Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Taylor Reichelt. Taylor is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have him on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. The Unlock Wellness podcast is now on patreon.com. Patreon is an amazing site that allows you to support your favorite podcasts. You can learn more by going to patreon.com/Dr. Casey Johnson. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab, where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which supplies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Taylor Reichelt. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Taylor Reichelt, and Taylor's story is extremely inspiring. Taylor believes he was placed on this earth to spread love and compassion to as many people as possible, and he just works to be an example of hope and strength to those who not only struggle with addiction, but any aspect of life. Taylor himself struggled with severe drug addiction for almost 12 years, and through fitness, veganism, and spirituality, he has transformed his life completely. So I'm just extremely honored to have him on to share a story. And Taylor, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation and for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited to have you share your story. And, before we jump into it, why don't you start with your backstory? First off, where you're from and what your health and wellness looked like at a younger age.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I'm originally from the West LA area, Santa Monica, Venice. I spent a lot of time on Venice Boardwalk as a kid. And health and wellness at that time of my life was not only not a concern, but it was almost the complete opposite. I found myself very shut out from the world at an early age. Nothing really drove that. It was just this inner feeling that I had that I was less than and that I was different and that I just wasn't comfortable in my own skin. And that quickly led at a very young age to drug addiction.
How young?
So the first time I tried hard drugs, I was about 12 years old.
Wow. That's crazy. I know that happens a lot, but that's very,
yes.
very young.
Yeah. It was unfortunately in that area. It's not that uncommon to be able to have that available to you at that age. It wasn't consistent from that moment on, but that was my first experience with it. And I remember thinking, because I had all of this anxiety as a kid, again, I had the feelings of being less than. My brain really would never turn off. And the first time I did drugs, that all went away. So from that moment on, I remember thinking to myself, this is the solution. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I have found it, and this is basically my career. And if this drug does this for me, I can't even imagine what the rest of the drugs are going to do. From that moment on, I vowed to basically try any and every drug out there until I found exactly what I preferred.
Right. And that's crazy. And especially that young of age,
yeah.
The fact that seemed like a solution that young, because you don't have the type of development to realize this isn't a sustainable option, right? All you know is that you were down, this helped, right? So
absolutely. It was the instantaneous relief that I felt, that I became so accustomed to and that I chased for so many years.
Man, that's crazy. How was your family dynamic? I was just kind of figuring out, you said that you kind of started off
Totally.
very anxious and feeling out of place. Like, did you have a good dynamic there? And it just kind of, you were just in a kind of awkward younger place and just didn't know how to deal with it? Or what do you think kind of led up to that?
So as a kid, I never really looked at my family dynamic as anything out of the ordinary. I had parents that said I loved you. My mother and father were together. I had a brother who was only 18 months older than me. There was fighting in the house. There was arguing, but nothing that I felt was out of the normal. There was no physical abuse toward either one of my parents. Nothing really crazy happened, in the house.
Right.
As I got older, I realized looking back that there definitely was dysfunction, as there is in most families. But I wouldn't say anything in my family drove me into the addiction. I believe it was something that I just happened to stumble upon at an early age. Because before the drugs and the alcohol, it was TV. I would isolate in my room and watch TV until two o'clock in the morning. When my parents fell asleep, I would turn on the TV and I would hide food. Food, cartoons, and isolation really were my solution until I found the drugs and alcohol.
Right. And it's almost like just you were drawn to that kind of behavior because obviously a lot of young kids watch TV, right? A lot of young kids will eat a lot, but some people just take it to the next level. So it was just kind of like a different form of addiction, which is the same thing as like if you look at like video games right now. I mean, obviously a lot of kids can handle it, but then you have those few that just totally isolate.
Absolutely. For me, it was a solution to the rest of the world. It wasn't an add-on. It didn't enhance the rest of the world. It became my world because it made me feel better. And what made me feel better, I wanted more of no matter what. And it became the number one goal in my life to get more of.
Yeah. And how were you, did you play sports growing up or were you involved in anything like that?
I was. My brother was extremely into baseball. My dad was like the coach of the team. I just never found anything that I connected with like I did once I, what either was alone or the cartoons or the drugs and the alcohol eventually. I was very active in my family life. There was just this emptiness that I felt inside. I believe I was born an alcoholic and a drug addict. I don't want to get too much into that right now, just because it's kind of a whole nother topic. But it's something that nothing else could cure at the time.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. And like, so you started obviously doing that at a very, very young age.
Yes.
I mean, how did that escalate as you got into high school and you started to? I mean, obviously it's going to just get worse as it becomes older and it's more available.
Yeah. So it in the later years, the end of middle school and high school, it became my identity. I did not know who I was, so I became what I thought people were either scared of or respected. The hardcore, crazy drug addict. Some people either thought, "Oh man, that guy's crazy. I'm staying away from him," or "Wow, man, this guy's down." He's hardcore. So that's what I became. And once people had that view of me, I had to live up to that. So I quickly threw myself into this whole lifestyle of just being a scumbag, and it's crazy because it was almost a badge of honor. My vision and my perception was so skewed that it got to the point where I was walking around with tank tops on, being proud of the track marks that I had, and almost like just this bravado of, I'm so hardcore, you couldn't live my life if you wanted to, which is so twisted. So twisted. And it caused a tornado through everybody that loved me, anybody that was close to me, my mother, my father, my brother, any and all of my friends, to where I put myself on this island, that I could never really get off of until I was given, the 10th opportunity to, which I finally took advantage of.
Were you, during that time period, like, did you deep down know that they were just trying to help, or were you just at a place to where you just thought they were trying to bring you down?
Oh, I knew they were trying to help. I never questioned that. It's funny because I never had the sense that it was okay. It just was what it was. I had convinced myself that I was born to die a drug addict. My life was meant to teach others how not to live theirs, and it was, and I accepted that. A good friend of mine died in a Wiener Schnitzel bathroom by himself. and I just figured that's what I was destined for, and anybody around me, I used to pray that my parents didn't love me so much so they wouldn't be hurt when I died, and that's a dark place to to get to, it's but I always knew it was wrong. I had just accepted that I was meant for nothing, basically.
Man, that's crazy. And I mean, just the fact that you said that you were thought that you were born to die a drug addict, like that's
Yeah.
just, man, that's just crazy. And like,
Yeah.
were you selling drugs at this point too, or just using?
Yeah, absolutely. Mostly, and this is part of the skewed perception at the time. I thought I was just like big bad drug dealer, right? And no, the reality was that I was a scared little boy inside selling drugs to basically provide a fix for myself. You know, I never got to the level of like drug lord or any of that stuff, which is what I thought I was doing or thought I wanted at the time. But no, I was just a junkie, just trying to support a habit.
Yeah, man, that's
You know,
crazy. So like, obviously you were talking about families trying to help. You know it's wrong. You're trying to like just get through your day, basically. So
yeah,
you're doing this for how long before you decide enough is enough?
man. I woke up at the age of 27, and I couldn't even buy a gumball unless my mommy bought it for me. And if she gave me the quarter for the gumball, I would have spent it on drugs. So it went for almost 12 to 15 years. Not always as crazy. The last 7 years is really when it became extremely hardcore, and like the heroin and the methamphetamine, the crack cocaine. That's when all those drugs really took hold of my life. But yeah, at the age of 27, I realized I was just tired, and I didn't plan on even getting sober when I did. I just wanted a break. I didn't care if my life got better. I just wanted it to change. That's where I was at that point. And I got an opportunity one more time. My mom had fought one more time to get me into a facility. And it was a 3-month facility, which is the longest I had ever agreed to go away for. And it kind of was just the perfect storm. The place that I was staying, I was so sick and tired of the people that I was around that I wanted a break. I figured I'd go there, get a little bit of a break, and get right back to what I was doing. And once I got there, something changed. I remember looking up at the sky and thinking what a nice day it was. And this is about, I want to say a week and a half, 2 weeks after I got separated from the drugs. And it was the first time in almost 10 years that I had cared what the weather was like, and it was almost this moment, this epiphany moment where it's like, okay, maybe there's something more, because I realized the drugs and alcohol will always be there. Let me try something else. And if it doesn't work, I can go right back to what I know.
Right, right. Was that the first rehab center that you had been to, or had you been to a few before?
I had been to a few before. The majority were only a month. I had only completed one. I had either left or conned my way out, manipulating my family or friends to get me out, or that I was quote unquote cured. It was the first time that I had completed a program once I was there. I ended up staying there for 5 months, which I needed. But yeah, it was the first time I had ever tried to get sober and be in a facility. I'd gone to facilities before, but just to make other people happy. And I knew I wasn't staying sober. The whole time that I was in the other facilities, I was scamming and conning and saving up money for when I got out.
Yeah. Do you feel like there was a difference with this place that you went the last time, or do you think you were just in a different headspace?
I don't know, because I have nothing to really compare it to in terms of a place that I actually wanted to be in for an extended period of time. But I know the place that I was in was extremely loving, and it was like a family environment. But I'm a firm believer that if you truly want it, you can get sober anywhere. I know there's people, though it's rare, that walk off a Skid Row into an AA meeting and end up getting sober. So for me, it was necessary to get away from the drugs and alcohol, separated from the drugs and alcohol. That was important to me. But even in places like that, like most rehabs or most other facilities, there are drugs and alcohol there sometimes. They get in. And so it's really up to me to do the work while I'm there. Being there wasn't going to protect me, forever, because eventually you have to leave and get back to real life, right? It was the
Right.
work that I did on myself while I was there.
Did you have like a breakthrough moment other than,
Absolutely.
yeah, like other than, noticing the weather? Like, did you have like just a day that was just like it?
Every single day that I woke up in the morning. Every single day that I woke up and I was not dope sick, or I didn't have to steal or con or lie or cheat to get drugs. Every day that I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, that I could just go into the kitchen and get a cup of coffee and then do a chore for somebody else, was a breakthrough moment for me. When I could be of service to somebody else instead of taking like I had for the last, 12, 15 years of my life, every moment like that was a breakthrough moment for me.
I can't imagine like how much more at peace you must have been compared, like at the facility compared to your everyday life. Did you just have like an overwhelming like wave of just peacefulness just every single day?
Absolutely. It was different because when I was out there using drugs and alcohol, I was peaceful. Honestly, life was so easy. It was a struggle each and every day to get the drugs, but it was easy. It was simple. I only had one goal. I only had one responsibility. Get drugs. That was it, and by any means necessary. And I had become so used to that it was routine and it was comfortable.
Right.
So there was a piece there in knowing that I only have to do one thing in my whole life, and it's what I want to do. But it's a whole nother type of peace when you can use that experience to help others. The moment that I realized I'm not meant to die, I'm meant to use that experience to help others, was incredible.
I love that. And did you ever, kind of to backtrack a little bit, were you ever in any major trouble through all of this, or did you just completely luck out and avoid any type of legal issues?
Oh man, it took me 9 years to get in trouble with the police, with the law. Early ages, 14, 15, 16, a couple marijuana tickets, but in Venice, it's kind of, almost, okay to smoke weed there. It was still against the law, but those tickets actually got thrown out by the district attorney. But it took me a long time to go to jail. I ended up in jail in Utah because I was so out of my mind. I had been up for like 2 weeks and I didn't even know I was in Utah, and I got busted with a felony, and I ended up going to a correctional facility there. Not for a long time, but to look down and see the word prisoner on your leg is a very powerful moment. When you can't go outside if you want to, and you're told when to eat and when to go to sleep. But even then wasn't, it sucked. And it was kind of the first time where I realized, oh man, there are consequences. But once I got out, I went right back to what I was doing. I celebrated getting out of jail,
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So you completed the rehab program. It was obviously a way better experience for you because you wanted to make changes once you really got into it. You were in there for 5 months. So like once you got out, what are the next steps? Because obviously that's the crucial moments, right? Because you don't have a schedule. You're out in the real world.
Totally.
Like, what happened?
Totally. The only thing that changed when I got out of the facility was my address. And that's what they taught me there. I still did everything. I still had the routine. I still worked the program of AA, which has helped me and which is what I do to this day. I was still of service to others as much as I possibly could. I still had my fitness and my nutrition routine, and nothing really changed. I still at that point, I was ready. I felt for the real world. Was it terrifying? Absolutely. To step foot outside, the safety and comfort of that facility, because that's basically where I was born, in my opinion. It's where I started my life. I picked up at the age of 12 again. Once I stepped outside, and all of a sudden these real challenges and real obstacles started coming my way. But I feel like I had a toolbox that I could use once I left there. And it was exciting. Honestly, it really was. As soon as my perception changed and I realized, hey, you know what? Every opportunity that I'm afraid is an opportunity for growth, because on the other side of that, life is going to be amazing. It became an everyday adventure for me. And then every day was an opportunity to grow and to learn and to become stronger. And it truly was incredible. It really was.
That's amazing. I love that. And like, so you mentioned that your routine, you kept up with the fitness and nutrition. And I know you're super into fitness now, and you are a vegan, which is very, very cool.
Yes.
So how did all of that come to play? Like, did you meet somebody in the program that was working out a lot, that was eating plant-based? Like, how did all of that fall into place?
So at the facility that I was at, it was mandatory to go to the gym 5 days a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. First time I had ever really done any physical exercise in years. let alone go to the gym on a regular basis. The 3 meals a day, at least, if we wanted more, there was more that they provided there, was the first time I had eaten regularly in years. It was the first time I had a regimented eating schedule in years as well. So with the gym and the eating, at the time I was not vegan, my body responded very quickly. They call it kind of like newbie gains, right? Like
Right.
my body responded very quickly, and I
But I'm
saw
sure
some
that's
really
encouraging, though.
totally, absolutely, and it was part of the excitement for me, because not only was my mind and my soul developing, but my body was too. And it was the first time I was look in the mirror and be proud of myself, and like the person that I saw in the mirror, and like the physique that I saw in the mirror,
Right.
and so when I got out, I just continued that. I got around some people that enjoyed fitness. It was a very big part of my routine. I'd wake up in the morning. I would read the stuff that I was used to reading. I would go to my AA meeting, and then I would go to the gym. And then I would go shopping, and then I would go to my job, and it just became my life. But fast forward about 2 years, I discovered veganism, and it was my wife that actually brought it into my life. It was something she'd wanted to do for a while. I was totally not opposed to it. I support her in everything that she decides to do. And we watched the documentary, and that was it for me.
What documentary was it?
I believe the first one we watched was Forks Over Knives. There's
Mhm.
so many on Netflix.
I know,
As soon as and
it's a
as
rabbit
soon as
hole, right?
yeah, yeah, and as soon as you see the first one for us, it was like, oh my god, oh my
Right.
god, and then boom, 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 we kind of watched them all. We
Yep.
went through them all, and it was at first for me, it was like, okay, I'm into health and fitness. I'm kind of this image of health and fitness, but I'm not eating healthy, apparently. So it became a challenge for me, the health first. That was really kind of, and then I kind of mentioned to people, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. So it was almost like a challenge for me as well. So okay, so if they can't do it, they think it's hard. I definitely want to try it, right? And it's healthy for me, and it's good for the planet. Sure, why not? The planet and the animals. Right about a week into it, I watched the video, because right when I kind of got into it, I got excited, and I started following all these pages on Instagram, and there was one video where I saw, I'm getting goosebumps right now, where I saw um, man, I saw the pain in this animal's eyes, and I looked at my dog right there, and I made the connection. Like, it was like this wave of guilt and shame and sadness, but also joy that I was having this moment. And I felt feelings that I really hadn't felt, or I couldn't recognize, at least at the time, to be compassion just flowing through me for every living thing at that very moment. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And that, from that moment on, it became about animals and spreading love and compassion in every single way I possibly knew necessary.
I love that. I mean, yeah, I mean, so many people have that disconnect, and you can't blame them just because you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Of course,
but once you make that connection, it's like, it's so powerful, and you can't get it out of your mind. Like, it's
Yeah,
there always
absolutely,
once you learn it, and that's amazing,
absolutely.
Taylor. And like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure with the same thing that it probably has really helped you too. By eating this way, you're doing less harm in the world, and you grew up doing so much harm to
Oh
yourself.
God.
So I'm sure it's just
Yes.
like, it feels almost like a way to counteract all of that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mission in this world is to spread love and compassion. And it is just another way for me to do that with myself, because I have to start with myself, right? Like, I have to show myself all the love and compassion. And then once my cup is full, I can pour into others. So by doing that with myself, I'm able to do that with others. And while I'm doing it to myself, I'm actually doing it to others at the same time, because I'm not participating in the harm of other creatures for my pleasure, other beings for my pleasure. It was easier for me, I feel like, because the only things that I was eating at the time that were not vegan were egg whites and chicken. I was doing a bodybuilding competition, and towards the end, when decided to make the switch, I was extremely strict. I had just finished a show, so at that point, I was only eating brown rice or sweet potatoes, broccoli, chicken, and egg whites. That was basically my entire diet. So
Right.
for me, just to take those two out, I wasn't eating cheese. I wasn't eating any type of dairy or anything. So just to take those two out and substitute them was easy for me.
That's cool.
Yeah, and being in the fitness industry, a lot of the things that people are like, oh, I can never go vegan because I didn't eat those things anyway, because of how strict I was on my meal plan.
Right. And you got into shows. So how was that process? I mean, did that help? Like, obviously, you had kind of already worked your way through a lot of that, but it's kind of
Yeah.
like transferring to a healthier addiction, right? Because you have to be
Yes.
so strict on yourself with everything that you do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it was enjoyable for me. Like it got to the point where I was so in love with the process. Like when the show, the day of the show, like, oh yeah, it was cool being on stage, but I loved the process. The saying no to people that offered me cake.
Right.
I just loved being so strict and being an example of others that it was possible too. Because a lot of people saw my body change in such drastic ways that it gave them hope, because they knew that I was, when I got to detox, I was 130 pounds soaking wet.
Mm.
Now I am here almost 200 pounds of basically, muscle. And they constantly picked my brain. And it was just so cool because at that time I was actually working for the facility that I went through. So I was actually able to share this experience with others that were in where I was literally sitting in their same exact seat. So it was an amazing experience for
Right.
me.
And Taylor, you had grown, like, as you were growing up as a young kid. I mean, one of the main things that you were going through is you really felt out of place. You didn't have a lot of self-confidence, self-esteem. And
Yeah,
obviously, as you build your physique, you're getting healthier. I'm sure your like confidence, self-esteem was just through the roof, which is polar opposite, right, of what you're used to.
absolutely, absolutely. But there's also a flip side to that where I couldn't let my physique define me, because I got to the point where almost I was so confident in my physique that became my image, and that became who I was, right? To where if for some reason I got hurt and I couldn't work out, then my whole identity is gone. So I had to do a lot of work on myself personally, to think, okay, this is what I do and what I enjoy doing, but it's not who I am. But
Yeah.
it definitely helps in the confidence for sure. But for a person like me who is all or nothing a lot of the time, I definitely had to find that balance of what I do and who I am.
No, I love that. No, that is super important, that point, because yeah, but just because, like, yeah, you were talking about earlier, just like setting yourself as something and you were trying so hard to live up to it, even if you knew it was
Yes,
wrong, you just kind of, you were too far in, right? So that
totally.
could go with anything in life.
Absolutely. I feel a lot of us get labeled and then we just
Yeah,
we stick to that, right?
right.
For me, I am an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I'm a vegan. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I'm all of these things. But really, what I am is just a human being trying to spread love and compassion. That's who I am. But I enjoy all of these things, and these are all labels that I have, but they are not who I am.
I love that. No, that's amazing, Taylor. And like, what kind of stuff are you working on right now? I know you're doing an amazing job. Like we were talking about before we started recording, at you're doing an amazing job at social media and just using that platform to reach as many people as possible. Your energy on there is great. So I know you're going to be able to help so many people, and just, I mean, really just walking the walk and living by example. So I mean, what kind of things are you working on? Just, I mean, building your platform. Is there anything else?
So I recently got a personal fitness or personal training certification, which is
Nice.
something that I really wanted to get into. Before I would just do everything my coach told me to, as a competitor. But now I'm kind of on the opposite side where I want to know why, and I want to be able to help others. I don't feel like I'm so much a competitor anymore as so much I want to be a coach. I want to be able to inspire and motivate others. So that's one area of it as well. And then also with the social media, I am so grateful for that platform. Again, it was a fear of mine that I had to walk through. Hearing my own voice and talking into a camera like that, I was
It's
so
scary,
self
right?
conscious. Absolutely, yeah. And my brain told me, oh, it's stupid. Everybody's doing motivational stuff. Nobody's gonna watch it. They're gonna make fun of you. the sound of your voice is dumb. Like you don't have enough experience. And you know what? I was able to just walk through that and just do it.
Yep.
You know, if not to keep myself accountable for my daily actions.
100%.
Right. And how I felt. And I've gotten some good response to it. It's great. It's incredible when you spread positivity and you try to be of service to others, how it not only makes you feel well, but it comes back to you tenfold. It blows my mind. I don't know how it works, but it's kind of that paradox of, you know, being selfish is selfless and being selfless is selfish. It's crazy. It blows my mind.
Yeah, no, if you're coming from the right place and you're really trying to help and you can get over that fear, like, cause I mean, I deal with that fear all the time too.
Yeah.
Like, it really is, it's scary. But if your heart's in the right place and you're working really hard at it, like only good things will come and the right people will come and you'll help the right people. It's very, very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No, and is there anything that you're working on in the future that you just want to put out there and share, or just continue to put out content, work on coaching others, or is there just anything at all you want to put out there?
I mean, the only thing I'd have to say to others in terms of projects, there's nothing really that I'm working on specifically. But I just want to say that if anybody out there is struggling, please feel free to contact me on my social media. Reach out, ask any questions. I'm an open book. I would love to share my experience in hopes that maybe it can help you.
I love it. And what is the best way, Taylor, for people to follow you on social media? That way they can reach out and they can keep up with everything that you're up to.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's addict_2_athlete. On Facebook, it's just my first name, Taylor, my last name, Reichelt, Reichelt. And let me warn you, on Facebook, there might be a couple profiles from my old days with some pictures. I don't know if I've deleted them all. But if you see a guy that looks like he's on drugs, I promise you, it's an old profile. Keep searching, you'll find my most current one.
Check the year of the picture before.
Yes, absolutely. And then that's basically it. In terms of the social media platforms, yeah.
Perfect, Taylor. And just closing question that I ask every guest, but if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's been your biggest takeaway through your whole wellness journey so far, but if you only had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
My number one, I'm getting goosebumps right now too. The number one piece of advice I would give that I hold so much truth in my life today is just communicate with people. Communicate your feelings. Communicate if you're struggling, and just communicate with people, because if people don't know where you're at, if your loved ones don't know where you're at, then you know you're going to be left all alone, and that's a very dangerous place for somebody like me.
Right, man. That is super powerful, Taylor. And just thank you so much for taking time to come on, for being open with your story. And I'm just excited to see how you're able to help people, because I know you're going to help so many people. So just thank you so much, Taylor.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm so grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Taylor. He's doing so much positive work, so be sure to give him a follow on social media to keep up with everything that he's been working on. You can find his social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drcaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on the social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Taylor's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Taylor, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to check out patreon.com/Dr. Casey Johnson to learn more about how you can support the Unlock Wellness podcast. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.